This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Jay Kelly, the new film from Academy Award nominee Noah Baumbach. George Clooney stars as an actor confronting his past and present on a journey of self-discovery, alongside Adam Sandler as his devoted manager. Critics are calling it a declaration of love to the chaotic art of filmmaking, with the Wall Street Journal praising it as a transcendent comedy drama. Jay Kelly is now playing in select theaters and on Netflix December 5th.
It's Thanksgiving week in this greatest nation on God's green earth. It's a day to recognize, a week to recognize just how great this nation is and how much we have grounds for gratitude, thankfulness. It's appropriate. Meanwhile, not everything that happens in our republic is for the good. There is a new Pentagon statement that basically wants to throw Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, who is a captain in the U.S. Navy. He is an astronaut. He is a United States senator. But they want to dismiss him at the Pentagon. This has come out this morning. He, in light of, quote, serious allegations of misconduct the department has received against him. That is what the Department of War under Pete Hegseth is claiming against Captain Kelly, Senator Kelly. What are the charges against Mark Kelly and his misconduct? It's dramatic. They could even recall him to active duty to face a court-martial or administrative punishment. The investigation that the Pentagon is calling for comes as President Donald Trump has been pushing relentlessly for consequences for Kelly and 5 other Democratic lawmakers over a video they made last week reminding service members of their duty to disobey illegal orders, calling their actions, when it is true, they are obliged to disregard and disobey illegal orders. That's the code of Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ. It's there. But because Kelly was a senior officer who retired from the Navy, he is required to remain available for recall to the military by law. The 5 other lawmakers, Senator Elissa Slotkin of Michigan, Representative Jason Crow of Colorado, Representative Maggie Goodlander, Representative Chris DeLuzio, and Representative Christy Houlihan of Pennsylvania, they are not eligible for recall to a military service, so they're not facing court-martial. The idea that that Senator Kelly might face court-martial comes after President Trump has alleged that what Senator Kelly and the rest have done is seditious, and he has sent out a Truth Social statement that says it's not only seditious, but it is deserving of the death penalty. This is something that Democrats have to love, frankly, because the more that people talk about executing an astronaut and a captain in the U.S. Navy and a certified war hero, the more that they talk about trying to investigate and court-martial and execute him, the less credible anything going on with the so-called Department of War makes no sense at all. There is also a new YouGov poll asking literally thousands of people about their reactions to various politicians. And they selected the most popular politician in America, one of the very, very few politicians who has a net positive rating. No, it's not President Trump. President Trump is not on the top 10 here. Who runs ahead of him? We will get to that. It's pretty amazing. There's also a new Pew Research study about the various platforms on the internet that are the most popular, and some of the national famous platforms that are not popular at all. How do they determine popularity? They ask people, do you ever or have you ever gone to this particular platform, this particular outlet on the internet? And what's amazing here is one of the most discussed and famous outlets, the one run by President Trump, Truth Social. There are only 3% of Americans who say they've ever been there. So what are the more popular outlets? We will get to that on the Michael Medved Show. And also, this just breaking news, CBS is reporting that a federal judge today ordered that criminal charges against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James be dismissed. Why? On the grounds that Lindsay Halligan, the interim U.S. attorney who secured their indictments, handpicked by Trump, by the way, that she was unlawfully appointed to the role. The rulings from U.S. District Judge Cameron Curry are a significant victory for Comey and James, who both argue that their prosecutions were retaliatory and motivated by President Trump's efforts to punish his political foes. Now, what is that based on? Trump has said so. He's been pretty direct about it. And no, you're not supposed to use the legal system to get retribution on people you consider your political enemies, especially when they are no longer working for the government, as James Comey emphatically is not. The Justice Department is likely to appeal the decisions and the dismissal of both these cases to try to stop this dismissal. I conclude that all actions flowing from Ms. Halligan's defective appointment, including securing and signing Mr. Comey's indictment, constitute unlawful exercises of executive power and must be set aside. So Judge Curry wrote in her opinion in the Comey case, a line she repeated in her ruling in the James case, that they were unlawful exercises of executive power and must be set aside. Meanwhile, there is this, that just hours before the New York City mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist, arrived in Washington, D.C. to meet with President Trump, the U.S. House of Representatives passed a bipartisan resolution condemning the horrors of socialism. The resolution was introduced nearly a month ago, but Republicans decided to bring it to the floor for a vote on Friday. A yes vote to this resolution should be relatively straightforward, easy decision, so said Republican Arkansas Representative French Hill. It simply states, he said, that Congress denounces socialism in all its forms and opposes the implementations of socialist policies in the United States of America. It passed in an overwhelming bipartisan vote of 285 to 98. So there were significant numbers of Democrats who also condemned socialism. They didn't talk about this, Mamdani and Trump, during their very genial conversation. But it is reassuring that you can still get such an overwhelming majority in the House of Representatives to vote on a resolution condemning socialist ideas or a socialist system. There is more. President Trump is planning to unveil a new proposal for addressing health care costs. That could be coming as soon as today. We will certainly keep you posted about how that works and how that is going. And then, of course, the question about the USA Today, the U.S. peace plan, 28 points in the peace plan for Russia and Ukraine. How's that working? We'll get to that and more coming up on the Medved Show. And on the Michael Medved Show, Senator Kelly, the senator from Arizona, who was one of the senior figures of the 6 Democrats who had put out a video in which they state the law. And the law is that if a member of our military receives an order that he or she knows to be illegal, and they recognize it as obviously illegal, they are not obliged to follow that order. We don't follow orders blindly. An illegal order should be disregarded. And yet the fact that they took a position that said that has led President Trump to condemn them for sedition and to suggest to send out a previous Truth Social that he had received. He had received a saying that just like George Washington executed people for sedition, this is in the middle of a war, by the way, so these people should be executed. President Trump has then repeated the idea that Senator Kelly and his colleagues deserve execution. There's a powerful and very, very persuasive and important column today by David French, who was a military lawyer, served in the Iraq War, and actually was someone who spent several years in the Judge Advocate General's Corps, basically showing his Harvard law background and applying it to serving our military. Here is Senator Kelly, who takes the same position, of course, that David French does, which is that there is nothing wrong or seditious or treasonous or dangerous or actionable even by people who are elected public servants. And all 6 of these people on the Democratic side are people who have served our military or our intelligence, as in the CIA. But the Senator Kelly certainly has, Captain Kelly, and here he was on CBS's Face the Nation this weekend. Clip 12.
What the president said is very serious. I didn't think he would step over that line, calling for the execution of members of Congress. And his words carry tremendous weight, more so than anybody else in the country, and he should be aware of that. And because of what he says, there is now an increased threats against us. I'm not going to get into, details on my personal security, but as the husband of Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, I understand what political violence is. The president should as well. Just like Gabby, somebody tried to assassinate him, and he should understand that his words could have serious, serious consequences.
Okay, and meanwhile, there was this from the president's side of things. There was at 12:30 Eastern Time, so not that long ago, just a couple of hours ago, the Department of War issued an official message on their X account and posted this official statement. The Department of War has received serious allegations of misconduct against Captain Mark Kelly, a U.S. Navy retired. In accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Justice, 10 U.S.C. 688, and other applicable regulations, a thorough review of these allegations has been initiated to determine further actions. which may include recall to active duty for court-martial proceedings or administrative measures. The matter will be handled in compliance with military law, ensuring due process and impartiality. Oh, sure. Further official comments will be limited to preserve the integrity of the proceedings. The Department of War reminds all individuals that military retirees remain subject to the UCMJ for applicable offenses, and federal laws such as 18 U.S.C. 2387 prohibit actions intended to interfere with the loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed forces. Any violations will be addressed through appropriate legal channels. All service members, they write, are reminded that they have a legal obligation under the UCMJ to obey lawful orders, and that orders are presumed to be lawful. A service member's personal philosophy does not justify or excuse the disobedience of an otherwise lawful order. No one disagrees with that. This is a statement of the obvious truth. And they were very careful in that video to talk about what they considered to be unlawful orders. In his column today in the New York Times, David French, who, of course, was an officer on our armed services, has reacted to the statement by the Department of War. I still put that in quotes. And David French said, absurd. If they recall Senator Kelly, it will be a gross abuse of power. He merely stated the law. Soldiers are not required to follow manifestly unlawful orders. It is not a violation of the law to state the law. And how did that law clearly emerge? As David French makes clear in his column today, it was the case of William Calley and the My Lai massacre, one of the great shameful violations of human rights and common decency that actually was perpetrated by an officer of the United States Army. And I think that the idea of people taking orders like the orders that the Calley and his men were executed in terms of the My Lai massacre, I think remembering that was how this precedent was determined about disregarding illegal orders, that is a very worthwhile association. More on a reaction from other members of Congress on this issue coming up. And a column today by David French in the New York Times under the headline, Trump has put the military in an impossible situation. He asks a question, and it's a very pertinent question, and it's a very painful question. He asks, what if you're a service member ordered to strike a suspected drug boat off the coast of Venezuela or Colombia, and you know that Congress has not been consulted and has not authorized your mission? When it comes to the decision to initiate hostilities, the responsibility rests with the senior leaders of the nation, in this case, ultimately with President Trump. At the same time, however, members of the military bear responsibility for how they conduct those operations. These distinctions, writes David French, make a lot of sense. A military can't function if individual members get to decide, according to their own legal analyses, if the war they're fighting is legal. We can reasonably share with all members of the military we cannot reasonably share with all members of the military the often highly classified intelligence that presidents and senior leaders review when they issue orders to strike. Even if the facts are clear, the law is often complex. Do we really expect individual pilots or sailors to know that the statutes that Trump is relying on to designate various narcotics gangs as international terrorist organizations do not an authorization to use military force. We do expect our most senior leaders to know these distinctions, and it is quite telling that the commander of the U.S. Southern Command, Admiral Alvin Halsey, decided to step down in October, shortly after the administration started targeting suspected drug boats in the Caribbean. Halsey had reportedly raised concerns about the strikes. It is also telling that the most senior military lawyer in the Southern Command, which is responsible for military operations in South America, reportedly disapproved of the strikes, but was ultimately overruled by more senior government officials, including officials at the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel. Pilots and sailors still can't kill prisoners, for example, or open fire on known civilians when there is no conceivable military justification. That means if the evidence of their eyes contradicts the intelligence from above, for instance, if they see a clear indication that the boat they're targeting is not carrying drugs, or they see children on board, there may be an obligation to hold their fire. And even if the command to open fire is binding, no legal opinion can remove the moral discomfort from service members who are under orders to fight in a war that is almost certainly illegal. And then he concludes, Trump has put the military in an impossible situation. He's making its most senior leaders complicit in his unlawful acts, and he's burdening the conscience of soldiers who serve under his command. So here's the bottom line. No legal opinion can compel any member of the military to commit, quote, manifestly unlawful acts during a war. But when it comes to the decision to begin an armed conflict, the responsibility doesn't rest with individual soldiers, sailors, airmen, or Marines. It rests with Trump and his most senior military and political advisors, the men and women who ordered them to fight. There is more on this issue. Senator Rand Paul, Republican, libertarian-tinged Republican from the state of Kentucky, appeared on CBS's Face the Nation, and he talked about President Trump's rhetoric, accusing the 6 Democrats, members of the Senate and House, of sedition and suggesting that they deserved the death penalty. Here is Senator Rand Paul on that explosion of rhetoric. This is clip 11.
You know, everybody knows that the president is famous for his unfiltered social media. But if you take at face value the idea that calling your opponents traitors and then specifically saying that it warrants the death penalty is reckless, inappropriate, irresponsible. There are a number of other ways to describe it, but it's not something that is helping the country heal wounds. I think it stirs things up, and really, I think we can do better.
You'll notice how moderate his rhetoric is. I think we can do better. Yes, I think we can. And no, it's not an attempt to heal the wounds and bringing the country together. It's the opposite. Senator Slotkin, who is one of those members of the Congress who President Trump thinks deserves a penalty of death, she reacted to Trump accusing her of seditious behavior as well. Senator Slotkin of Michigan, this is clip 3.
Well, I think almost immediately, the security situation changed for all of us. Leadership climate is set at the top. So if the president's saying things like that, you can imagine people on the ground, what they're doing, the calls into our office, et cetera, into our teams, the calling of police. I think I've been through dangerous situations before, so it doesn't change, my feeling about speaking my mind. But obviously, the president took issue with one sentence in a video and was calling for our death. I think that's inappropriate, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or an independent.
And she was on ABC's This Week, and she commented on the video that she created together with her 5 Democratic colleagues, which has provoked this extremely indignant and dangerous response from President Trump. Senator Slotkin again on ABC This Week, clip 4.
My primary concern is the use of U.S. military on American shores, in our cities and in our streets. We've seen now the courts overturn the deployment of U.S. military into our streets, including here in Washington, D.C. When you look at these videos coming out of places like Chicago, it makes me incredibly nervous that we're about to see people in law enforcement, people in uniform military get nervous, get stressed, shoot at American civilians. It is a very, very stressful situation for these law enforcement and for the communities on the ground. So it was basically a warning to say, like, if you're asked to do something, particularly against American citizens, you have the ability to go to your JAG officer and push back.
And one of the things that David French has talked about and written about before is he was a JAG officer, Judge Advocate General Corps, a military lawyer. And during the time he served in Iraq, he said he regularly would be asked about orders that people were receiving or passing down because they would ask for an opinion, is this a legal order? And it is one of the prides of the American military that it operates on that basis, and that we don't have repetitions of the My Lai massacre. And again, you can feel sorry for everyone involved, but the idea of holding up the notion of conscience and of actually fighting a war without committing war crimes. Yes, that is important. And meanwhile, so is the ongoing drama about the Epstein trial. The Justice Department has asked a federal judge in Florida to send them more Epstein files, grand jury materials from Florida. We will get to that and the latest on this national preoccupation and where it's headed coming up on the Medved Show. The Justice Department has asked today a federal judge in Florida to reconsider unsealing grand jury materials related to an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, as the agency faces a congressionally mandated deadline to release all documents related to the convicted sex offender next month. They have 30 days to come up with everything, to get all the papers together. In its filing on Friday, the Justice Department cited the passage of a law mandating the release of all of its Epstein files within 30 days, arguing, quote, public production of the grand jury material is therefore required. Yes, Congress passed a law and President Trump signed it. But the legislation which President Trump signed into law last week does not specifically mention the material in Florida that were related to his indictment there. So we will see if and when the Floridian authorities come up with the material that is demanded now. Meanwhile, there was a brand new poll that's just breaking news with us, reported by The Hill. Trump's approval on the economy is down 15 points since March. That, according to a CBS News YouGov survey released today. The poll that was conducted late last week shows 36% of Americans approve of Trump's handling of the economy. That's down from 51% in a poll released in early March. This is, when you think about 36% approve of the way that the great businessman is handling the economy, the fact that it's gone down 15 points, this is not a golden age, not the golden age that President Trump promised. There's also more polling information that it is incredible about President Trump's ranking. He is among prominent politicians ranked 15th most popular, and he is way behind the number one most popular politician. So who ranks as number one? This is a question about who is the most popular politician in the country. And you determine popularity by asking a question. Do you have a positive opinion of the given politician? And the number one listing is 98% of people recognize Barack Obama, and 55%, a clear majority, say they have a positive opinion of him. And President Trump, by comparison, he also has 99% of people who recognize him, but instead of a 55% a positive rating, which Obama has, Donald Trump has 35%. It puts him down there with Al Gore, RFK Jr., and Zohran Mamdani. They have very similar approval ratings, 34-33, to President Trump. He is below Hillary Clinton. He's below Bill Clinton, below Elizabeth Warren. Here's a shock. The president has a less positive rating than Pete Buttigieg. And Pete Buttigieg was even a fairly controversial mayor of South Bend, Indiana. So what is going on here? What is going on here is when Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren are beating you in terms of a positive rating, the number two rated politician as Barack Obama, number one. Number two is Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he hasn't been doing that much politics recently. Maybe that's why he has a 54% rating, just 1 point below Barack Obama for top of the heap. And he's followed by Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, who's number 4. She has a 47 approval rating, 47%. That is as opposed to the 35% for Donald Trump. And why this kind of negativity? Part of it is because of midnight madness. What kind of midnight madness is late night Truth Social posting where he said, and again, this is his choice, right? He puts up on to Truth Social. Many great legal scholars agree that the Democrat traitors that told the military to disobey my orders as president have committed a crime of serious proportion. Now, they didn't say to disregard his orders as president. They said to disregard any illegal orders. In a second post that came 10 minutes earlier, just before midnight, he wrote, "The traitors that told the military to disobey my orders should be in jail right now, not roaming the fake news networks trying to explain that what they said was okay. It wasn't and never will be!" Exclamation point. So are we really going into a situation now where it's not a question about releasing the Epstein files. That is obviously something that has been a great deal of public fascination. But we're talking now about taking further legal action, this on a day when his already pending legal actions against James Comey and Letitia James have been dismissed. They've been thrown out because the entire matter was handled by Halligan, who is a tenderfoot, new rookie attorney who has never prosecuted a case before. All of this indicates some of the challenges facing President Trump, but also the challenges with the current state of negotiations over the American peace plan, which has 28 points, which does appear more and more as if it's completely unacceptable to Ukraine and basically tries to give Russia what Russia wants. Is this an appropriate role for U.S. diplomacy? We will get to that question and where we are going regarding the plan to end Russia's war in Ukraine. The talks are supposed to continue today after meetings with U.S. and Ukrainian officials and some statements by Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. We will get to that and to much more about the pending shape of politics in this great country, which remains the greatest nation on God's green earth.